Hey guys, Pejman Ghadimi back with another Exotic Car Hacks video. As I promised last time, you may have heard the 570S is now sold. Let's take one last look and let's drive to the dealership and talk a little bit about what the numbers were as we turn her in for the final time. And on top of that, maybe we'll take a look at some other exotics that perhaps are going to be replacing it. So you may remember that with this car, this was the car that I most intensely modified as I share in Exotic Car Hacks, the course on how to get modifications for as low as 5 to 10 cents on the dollar. Now in this particular case, you're looking at a 570S with some of the highest options in the country. Follow me here, you'll see all of the carbon inserts everywhere. Every piece on this car that is black is actually carbon fiber. The car was white and it's wrap matte white. And then of course we have this incredible HREs in frozen gold, this whole new bumper, this incredible rear end. Come take a look at this rear end one last time because it's just incredible that it's actually so much carbon, and with this chassis mounted wing, it is unheard of, like absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look at this. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So I just want to show you this one last time as we kind of give her away now. But listen, it's been a really good journey with this car. Not one single issue. I've had it now for about 8-9 months. Not one issue. It hasn't been in the dealership for one single thing. And everything has been beyond perfect on it. So let's get ready to go to the dealership now. And we're going to get to see what should replace it. But in the car, let's talk numbers and see, does it make sense to own a fully customized 570S for 10 months or not? You'll be the judge after I share the numbers. Come on in, let's go. All right, so if you followed me last time I did a video, then you know that I talked to you a little bit about how crazy it was and the specific trick, because there was a really specific trick I shared last time, so make sure you watch that video on how I was able to negotiate a huge discount off of MSRP. I even give you the trick so you can do it yourself on your next brand new car. As I said previously, I bought this car as a test to see if I could hack a brand new exotic right off from the dealership rather than trying some crazy strategy of buying it used. So in this particular case, this was a brand new car with no previous owners. This was I was the first owner. And so about 8 months ago, I walked into McLaren and I even did a video about it and picked up the car. Now, I decided, because after I bought the car, the 570S market tanked tremendously. What I mean by that, it went down roughly $25,000 after I bought the car, meaning that even this car was technically worth $25,000 less because it was used. And as a result, that meant that I was going to obviously lose $25,000. Doing so gave me a whole new opportunity because I realized that maybe there's a way that I can actually go out there and fix that $25,000 problem by putting in a significant amount of aftermarket mods, making the car one of a kind, above and beyond just being carbon fiber, and seeing if indeed it does translate to more money in my pocket. Meaning, am I able to hack this longer as a result of all of these parts? Will someone pay a premium for that? Will I be able to forge that gap? So I was in the car a little bit under 200K. This is a 260K sticker car. I was in it for about 30% off, which again, remember, watch my last video for that trick. And then I was able to ultimately drive this car for about 8 months, and it just sold for 207. Now, 207 is a little subjective, and let me explain what I mean by that. 207 was a selling price, but there's more to it than just 207. What really happened is that the actual car itself was modified with about $20,000 worth of aftermarket. So if you consider how much I'm in the car for, it's a little bit technically above 220 grand. So I'm in this car above 220 grand, and it finally sells for 207, but it sold for 207 with all the aftermarket and none of the actual OEM parts, which were all carbon fiber, if you remember. And that was kind of the best play, meaning I took all the original carbon fiber parts, which usually I would keep all in all everywhere with the car, because I wouldn't want something to obviously, you know, if something happened, I'd want to be able to show that I have all the OEM parts. But in this case, I didn't, because the OEM parts were very valuable, and I was able to sell all of my OEM parts for a little under $8,000. Now, except my wheels, which then sold for $2,000. So all in all, I made roughly about $9,000 in addition to the car itself. So now that puts us somewhere about $216,000. But remember, like I said before, I was in this car a little bit over 220. Now that said, there's roughly about $5,000 that's unaccounted for, and an additional about $2,000 in maintenance. So that gives you about $7,000. $7,000 is a loss across the last 8 months. So the question is it worth paying $7,000 to drive a McLaren 570S, brand new, for 8 months? Well, in short, the answer is yes, because if you looked at the lease on a McLaren 570S, you would be talking about $20,000 plus down, in addition to looking at something around 20, maybe $2,000 to $2,500 a month, depending on what you find. So if I consider that fact, and the fact that I was able to do a short-term drive on this car for that short amount of period of time, enjoy it, modified to death, have one of the cleanest and hottest 570Ss in the country, and be able to then get all of that done for a little bit under $1,000 a month, I feel is a great victory for a car that I call the best car hands down you can buy and own under $200,000. So the question, again, I pose to you is this: if we're talking about used cars, yes, you can hack your way in and out of exotics, specifically really nice exotics like 458s, Huracans, and everything else. And you've seen in some of my other videos why you can do all of that for very, very little, like I teach you in the webinar that's in the link below. But in this case, we're trying something completely new, a brand new car, a car that hadn't been titled before, a car that everybody says would depreciate to death. And we've proven again that while, yes, it's not possible in this case to drive this car for free, not that it's impossible, for me, it was not buying it new, even with all the tricks and tips of getting the car at a significant discount, one thing that has become possible is the idea that it can be driven for a fraction of what it really costs to own it. So, in other words, if a payment was even $2,000 to $3,000 a month, all of that money is now back in our pocket, and we're able to say our true cost of ownership was roughly about $1,000 a month, or a little bit less than that. So $1,000 a month to drive what looks like on the surface to be a $300,000 McLaren 570S, completely customized with every possible carbon option, every possible engine upgrade, and that, as a result of it, I think is a big win. So if you have been contemplating buying a 570S, I highly recommend it. This was my second one. I will certainly be back in a third one eventually, probably a Spider. As of right now, I would say that this is probably your absolute best bet, absolutely best bet to get in and out of an exotic in terms of like quality of drive for the money, but probably not your best bet from a monetary standpoint. I mean, the Ferrari 458 and the Huracan, while the Huracan, base Huracan, not the Performante, the Huracan is a piece of shit in my opinion, the Ferrari 458 is a very nice car, and it can be driven completely free using the strategies in my webinar. So this car couldn't. A normal 570S completely stock, bought right, used, could. In this possible case, buying a brand new car, 570S, small loss, worth it or not, you make the choice. Tell me what you think. Would you pay $1,000 a month to drive a 570S completely customized like this one, or would you not? So subscribe to this channel, make sure you leave a comment below, let me know what you think. I'm curious as to if you think it's worth your time to drive this brand new 570S for $1,000 a month. If it is, if it isn't, let me hear about it, and make sure you watch the webinar I've linked below. This is going to teach you a little bit more about the strategy we use at Exotic Car Hacks to get in and out of cars, and in this case, as you notice, with a small loss, or should I say a small price to pay. You decide. I'll catch you next time on another Exotic Car Hacks video.